Should be an option.
Perfect. They changed that. Beautiful.
Good.
All right. We're all good. Welcome, Jim. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Rich.
I'd like to introduce Jim Lawson. Jim is the Outreach Development Manager for ABC. And he's going to get into some facility. I always get crazy on that word. I want to say facility, and it's facility, accreditation. I think you are the man to get on that. And I'm going to let you, take it away,
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to go ahead and share, right, to pull up my presentation?
Yep, exactly.
Okay,
On the bottom.
Oops. Okay. Let's see.
Lower left.
Yep. Lower left. Sorry. Share screen.
Yep.
Very good. Make sure you get the right one here. Let's see. Here we go. That's not the one.
That's right. Yeah. Now just pull your PowerPoint.
All right. I have the PowerPoint open. Sorry about that. All I see about 100 versions of this.
Yep. I know. Just locate your PowerPoint on your desktop.
Gotcha.
There you go. Perfect.
All right.
From beginning, good to go. Excellent.
Are we good?
Me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everyone. Rich, I appreciate the opportunity to joining everyone here today. I appreciate it greatly. We're going to focus on, we have about an hour. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk maybe about 40, 45 minutes, 50 minutes. And then if you have any questions, I would love to be able to take those questions as we go throughout. Probably at the end of it. I have a little slide for that. So let's go ahead and start. I'm going to talk about compliance. I'm going to talk about accreditation. And I'm going to talk about basically, I tell the story about 79 years ago. Different practitioners got together and they were taking care of patients, and some people were doing a great job. Some people had a good experience, education. Some people were not. Some people were taking advantage of patients. They weren't qualified to be able to do the work that you're doing right now. And so those people who were qualified and were doing a good job got together and they created the American Board for Certification, orthotics, prosthetics. And then, of course, a while ago, we added pedorthics. Pedorthics came in. And that's how ABC came to existence. And that's how they wanted to make sure that there was a certain level of education, a certain level of experience, a certain level of certification to be able to take care of those patients. And that's why ABC is here. It's a nonprofit board. And that's why we're here, because of people like you who volunteered to work at the board. And we still have, pedorthists on our board of directors. So we appreciate that greatly. So let's go ahead and start here. I want to start off real quick. The last 16 months, 17 months have been crazy. It's been something we never anticipated with COVID. And one of the things we've created on our ABC website is a COVID update page. Whenever anything happens that we feel you need to be aware of, we're going to update that. We have our CMS guidelines. We have facility accreditation for a while. We were not doing surveys. We had to stop those for a while, but they're back in full force now. They're going straight through. The surveys are now in person, so everything's right there. We also have exam information up there as well, so if you're interested in that. Documentation is the key to validation. This is what we're going to be talking about most of this time here today. Documentation. When RAC audits kind of started hitting about 8 or 9 years ago, I like to look for silver linings in anything that happens. And one of the silver linings, and no matter how fair or unfair you believe that the RAC audits are, and I can get on my soapbox, I can talk about it all day long. But one of the things that silver lining was, it has forced us to do better documentation. And what I will say is, the better your documentation you have, the less chance you're going to get being one of those lower fruits on the tree that the auditors are going to come after. Okay, so we're going to be talking about documentation, and that is one of the main standards to be compliant with ABC. So I'm going to be talking about that a good bit. So number one, first time accreditation. If you're opening a new practice, a new pedorthic practice, let us know when you are ready for the surveyor to come out. Let us know when you're ready to open, because we're going to bump you up to the top of the line. Now, everyone knows our accreditation surveys are, you probably know, are every 3 years, okay? And the renewals every 3 years. And so if you're starting off, we're going to bump you up to the top of the line. We want to get in. We want to get you accredited. We want to make sure that you're able to start seeing your patients at that point. For renewals, though, which is most of us, we're going to reach out prior to about 5 months prior to your expiration date. The last thing we want to happen is your accreditation to expire prior to being due. And meaning we have, sometimes it can take a couple months to get the surveyor to your practice. Then if you have to do a corrective action plan, we give you 60 days to do that. So now that's taking more time, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want to let it expire. So we're going to reach out to you and try to get you to go ahead and apply early at that point. We're going to send you reminders by snail mail and by email. And we are going to give, this is something new. Remember I mentioned that COVID page with our website. ABC is doing something now that we're in the midst of all the COVID. We are giving you a 4-week window of when we're going to arrive. The surveyor is going to come. We are deemed authority by Medicare. We are not affiliated with Medicare whatsoever, but we're deemed authority by Medicare, so we can do accreditation surveys. And so with that, one of the things that Medicare is letting us do because of COVID, we're giving you a 4-week window when we're going to come and show up. You know we're coming. You know it's going to happen, but we're going to try to break that down as small as possible for that. And we're trying to keep our time at your practice minimal time-wise, okay? We're gonna, and I'll talk a little bit about that coming up here. So one thing that you may not know about is we have blackout dates. We have blackout dates. If you know that you're going on a trip, if you know that you're not going to be in the office, if you're the owner or the business manager and you want to be there during the survey, and you don't have to be, but if you want to be there during the survey, let us know those dates that you're going to be gone. If you're going to go on a cruise or a vacation, now that they're starting up again, or if your nephew getting married, something like that, let us know those blackout dates. If you have those dates when you send in your application for your accreditation, we'll go ahead and black those out so a surveyor will not show up at that time. And if you don't have them then, if you let us know as soon as possible, if we have a surveyor already scheduled, it may be too late for that. But let us know as quickly as possible. We'll do everything we can to try not to have a surveyor come while we have those blackout dates for you. So take advantage of that if you like. Okay? And moving on, preparing for your survey itself. Once again, documentation is key to validation. Documentation must be available. Make sure you have your documentation where it's needed. I'm going to talk about exit interviews in a little while. I'm not a surveyor, but I do go on the interviews and the surveys sometimes. We went to a practice, and the business owner at the exit interview, we said, "You're not compliant in this standard." And he said, "Why?" We said, "We couldn't find the documentation." So we went away. About 3 minutes later, he came back with a big stack of files, and we said, "This is exactly what we were looking for, but now make sure you have it where it needs to be." We are going to work with you. Our surveyors are going to work with you. We want to help you with your accreditation survey. But if you have an auditor come from Medicare or another organization that comes in, they may ask for something specific, and if it's not all there, they sometimes will not request saying, "Hey, this is missing. I need help with this." Then 3 days later, you're going to get a ding get a letter saying, "Hey, you don't have this documentation, so now we have an issue." So please make sure it's available where it needs to be available. Prepare your facility. Let your staff know that we're coming. Some of you have excellent gatekeepers, and we come in with a badge and say, "Here we are with ABC. We're doing your survey today." And they go, "No, you're not. You're not getting past this door." So let them know that we're coming, and let the staff know that we're going to be speaking to all staff there. We need a contact and a backup contact. That's an ABC standard as well as a Medicare standard. I went on a survey once where it was one business owner, and that was the only employee. And we went in, and they opened about 8 o'clock in the morning. We got there about 8:30, and we said, "We're here to do the survey." There was a gentleman behind the counter. He's wearing shorts and a T-shirt and a baseball hat, which is probably not normal attire at your practice. And it ended up that he went in. He was the backup contact. The practitioner the night before tore his meniscus in a softball game, his church league softball game, was in the emergency room, and they hadn't seen him yet. And so he called his buddy and said, ABC is going to come one day. We're not sure which day, but just in case. He went in. He did no work whatsoever, but we were able to get online. We were able to start doing his electronic medical records, going through everything by the time the practitioner even showed up. So we need a contact and a backup contact. It's really great to have one there. And the surveys are unscheduled and unannounced, but we do give you that 4-week window now. Okay. So your survey itself, if you remember, we do an introduction. We do a meet and greet of your facility. We meet all staff members. We basically speak to them. What's your job here? What are your responsibilities? And we go through that real simple stuff. We need a workspace. If you have electronic medical records and files, then we'll need a station to go ahead and monitor that. They are very well versed in all of the programs. And if you've created your own database, that's no problem. They'll be able to use it within 2 minutes. It's not an issue itself. They're going to be asking for documents for personnel files of each staff member. And for each podorthist, they're going to ask for at least 10 patient medical records, okay? Because they're looking through those medical records to make sure those are consistent, at least 10 of those. If you have a smaller facility, they may ask for 20. And and they may ask for 20, they may get 20, look through 5 or 6 of them and say, these are going great, these are in great order, and not need any more. They may ask for 10 and then may ask for 10 more. So, but it's not an indication of you're doing poorly. It's just they want to make sure that everything is consistent there. Now, if you have Medicare patients, we are now required to telephone 5 of your Medicare patients, your CMS patients, at random. And basically, we're required while we're there to do the survey to telephone them and ask them questions such as, are you a patient of, Fred's Podorthist service? Okay. And they say, yes, great. Did you receive such and such device? How's that working for you? Are you having any issues whatsoever? If they are, then we're going to hand the phone call over to your staff member, or we're going to take a message down if your staff is busy at the time. We're going to take a message down, and when we're done with the calls, give it to your staff and say, Mrs. Smith has such and such device, and it's rubbing her wrong. She's getting a rash or something, whatever the case may be. And she would like to make an appointment to come back in. We'll hand that right over to you. Now, I said we are responsible of calling 5 of your Medicare patients. Chances are, if you know just as well as I do, you make 5 phone calls, chances are you're not going to get 5 people answering. So if we don't get anyone answer on those 5 phone calls, we'll probably call a few more people to at least get one person. Okay with that. And that's a requirement that we need to do with Medicare. And then, of course, we're going to do your exit interview, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments there. I'm showing you, this is on our website. This is abcop.org. And if you look in to sign in to the website itself, take a look at My ABC Facility. That's the center one. Now, on the left-hand side, that's your individual certification information. Okay, you sign in for that. You have your own individual certification, password and username for that. But for your facility, you sign in because I want to show you some of the tools that we've created to help you be compliant. And that's what I'm going to spend a little time on. So this is where you sign in. My ABC Facility, you sign in your login, your password, and you click in. If you are having an issue with that, or if you don't remember what the information is, just call us, okay? We'll walk you through and we'll get you right in there. It's not an issue whatsoever. People back at our office are able to do that. They'll walk you right through. So the reason I showed this is because I want to show you some of the tools and resources that we now have available for you to help you out. So this is the compliance kit. This is what I'm talking about. Wherever you see this cube on any of my slides, this is one of those resources that is available to you. And we have, I think, about 26 now of information pages, of templates, of instructions, all kinds of stuff that's going to help you with your survey, with your accreditation survey, and to remain compliant throughout, the 3-year period until your next survey itself. So when you ever see this block, that's what I'm talking about. So I'll show you. We have annual facility review checklist. We have all these things, and I'm going to walk through some of these as we go on. I realize I'm going a little fast, but I want to leave time for Q&A also at the end. So as I said before, we have 26 forms, charts, templates, and information sheets. We add more every single year. I've been with ABC, I'm getting close to 10 years now. And one of the first times I went and spoke at a meeting, and I think it was in Ohio, I asked people at the end of the meeting, I said, what can ABC do to help you to be compliant with the standards, to help you pass your survey? What can we do? What can we offer? And we had different people say to me, we'll do whatever you say we need to do. Just kind of tell us how to do it. And so I thought, well, I've got all the answers now. So I went back to ABC and our board of directors, and I said, people would like to see how, just tell us how to do it. And the board's response was, and I think it was intelligent response, said, those are the business owners. We tell you what you need to do. We don't want to tell you exactly how you have to do it. For example, if you would like to remain compliant by coming this direction, then that's perfectly fine. If you would rather do it going this direction, that's perfectly fine too. So they didn't want to tell you. So I thought, all right, well, we don't have anything. So over the years, over these last 10 years, we have started creating these templates, these information sheets, these forms to help you be compliant. So different people are in and different people see things different ways. And so I think this is a great opportunity to use all of these resources to help you with your compliance. And I'll walk through some of those. Number one, if you don't have this and you're accredited with ABC, I urge you to go to our website and download it. Okay, I'll show you again where it is. Don't do it now, but do it a little later on. Okay, this is the Patient Care Facility Accreditation Guide. Okay, I need you to read it, review it, revisit it, and if you're in charge of the compliance at your practice, make sure you have a copy of that. This is the most updated version. If you're not in charge of the compliance, but you'd like everyone on the staff to have a copy of it, there's no problem at all with that. Just go ahead and drop those off, print them off. I tell people that even if you have a compliance officer in your business, that doesn't mean that compliance officer is in charge of all the compliance, because everyone in your whole staff has a hand in remaining compliant and being able to be compliant with the standards themselves. So it's a whole team effort with that. So make sure everyone gets a copy of this. Moving on here. Inside of this patient care facility guide, we have helpful tips. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, these are the standards, okay? Like, for example, AD.3.1.1 is one of the standards, okay? ABC has 142 standards, 142 of them, okay? If you see the standards written in bold, and below it is a helpful tip. It's basically telling you how to be compliant. Here's the way to do it. Here's what the surveyor is going to be looking for, okay? So it tells you what they mean. There's the tip right there. Now, also, if you see this, the CAP, if a standard has a CAP beside it, that stands for Corrective Action Plan. If you are not compliant or only partially compliant in that standard, then ABC will require you to create a corrective action plan and send it in to us. So if you take a look, AD 3.1.1, the top one, if you're not compliant with that, we need you to correct it, but you do not need to do a complete corrective action plan. AD.5, if you're not compliant, you do need to complete it. So that's going to help you, let you know, man, these are some of the important ones. I got to be really strong on this. Okay, so that's going to help you. Inside, we also have the types of survey we offer, your patient facility care. We also do central fab accreditation as well. All of those we give information about our surveyors, kind of what their training is, what they're looking for, what they're coming to you for. They're all practitioners who either have stopped practicing or retired or along those lines, and they know the business. They know what needs to happen. And so that information is in there. And we give you the ABC approach. Our approach is basically, we're there to help you. The surveyor's main job is to make sure that you are compliant in all the standards that apply to your business itself. But they're not there to come in and say, no, 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 no. They're there to come and say, hey, I see this. You're not compliant in here, but I've seen other practices do it this way. That may really help you. So they want to help you. There are certain times that with our ABC approaches, when the surveyor's there in your business and your practice and facility, that if they see something that you're non-compliant or partially compliant, there's certain times that you guys are able to fix that right away and right in front of them, and they can help you with that. And then they'll say, great, boom, now you're compliant. And so, as opposed to waiting and redoing things. So it's comprehensive. We're there to help you also. And we also have how to prepare for the survey, gathering information that the surveyor is going to need for the survey. And then after the survey, what happens when the surveyor leaves? What's next? So we have that information in there as well. Also, this is a great tool, and it's in that patient care guide, okay, the one I'm going to ask you to download, okay? And it basically is the patient care accreditation pre-application checklist. Now, what I would do with this list is I would take myself and my staff and go through this list before sending in our application for renewal, okay? Go through, because once you there are certain times, I said that it could take up to 2 months for a surveyor to come to your practice. Well, that's true. But also, when ABC receives your application and they put it through and everything looks good, there could be a surveyor at your place in 3 days. Because, for example, if you're out in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a surveyor's in Tulsa and they're doing 3 surveys in a row and they're there for 1 more day, they may be able to fit your practice in. So they may show up really quickly, okay? So with that, I would just be completely prepared for the survey to show up when you send in your application. And with this, it goes over your key areas and basically how to be prepared. This is your cheat sheet for what the surveyor is going to be looking for, okay? Great tool in there. So I say the guide isn't the only resource. We have a relevant standards tool. I'm going to show you that in a few moments. The compliance kit, that's what I'm talking about. We have the task planner. We have plenty of webinars in our library at abcop.org, and it's also on YouTube. We have a lot of webinars about how to be compliant for your standards itself. I host a podcast. ABC does a monthly podcast called Credcast, and we've done a lot of podcasts on accreditation standards and how to be compliant. We have a facility e-newsletter. I'll talk a little bit about that more. We have overlooked items flyer. We just on and on and on. We have a lot of opportunities, a lot of resources. So if you go to our website and look at those, and if you have an issue finding those, I'm going to give you my email address at the end. Just pop me an email and I'll walk you through everything. Okay. This is the relevant standards tool. Okay. Relevant standards tool. This is only available on our website. Okay. And what this is we put a list of all the services and products that you may provide as a podorthist. Okay. And the list is longer than this. What you do is you go down and click everything that you provide to your patients, that you have a possibility of providing to your patients. Go ahead and click Create PDF. And what that will do is that will pull up a list of standards that are personalized specifically for your business. That's one of the cool things about this. If you recall, I said there's 142 standards that ABC has. 142. Chances are that your facility does not need to comply to all 142. Chances are maybe it's 128, maybe it's 122, something like that. So what I would do is I'd use that relevant standard tool, print out a copy of the standards that just apply to your business and focus on those. Don't waste time focusing on those other 20 that you don't need to, okay? Just focus on this. So this is a really great tool. We also, I speak to our surveyors probably 4 or 5 times a year, and I ask them, okay, what are some of the things that you see trending? What are some of the most common misstandards that we see? And I update this all the time, and I'm going to spend the next few minutes focusing on standards that maybe are missed when the surveyor comes in to see your practice, that are non-compliant or possibly partially compliant. So I'm going to spend a little time on that. Okay, number 1. Not understanding your accreditation standards. So remember, this patient care facility accreditation guide has all of the standards in there. And if you don't understand a standard or a handful of standards, that's perfectly fine. What I'm going to ask you to do is reach out to ABC. We're going to either send us an email or call us, and we'll walk you through that standard. We'll let you know exactly what the survey is looking for, exactly what that standard means. Okay, and we hear this a good bit, that we have a survey in a practice and the surveyor says, you're not compliant with this standard. And sometimes the response is, I didn't even know what that standard meant. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. But try to do that prior to the surveyor showing up in your business, okay? So we want to make sure that you'll be able to bring yourself up to compliancy prior to the surveyor showing up. So we will help you with that, okay? So spend some time going through this patient care facility accreditation guide and go through the standards. And if you see any that you and your staff don't understand, give us a buzz. And we may give you an answer, and you take it back to your staff and you discuss it again and say, oh, okay, but what about this? Call us again. Send us another email, okay? We'd be happy to talk to you 100 times. Don't worry about it. That's what we're here for. So moving on. Incomplete patient charts, okay? This is obviously one of the big things for the RAC audits, okay? We're going to spend 4 or 5 slides on this one. So incomplete patient charts, that's the biggie. Missing documentation. Okay, I'm going to break this down a little bit. It's when the surveyor is there finding examples of missing documentation, they're going to walk through and explain the steps to you and staff, whoever would like to hear that. They're going to walk through and explain that to you, and it's a great teaching opportunity at that point. The surveyor can say, the reason this piece of documentation needs to be in the patient file and the patient chart is because this and this and this. And if you do it this way, then this is going to be sufficient. It's going to be sufficient documentation. So it's a great teaching opportunity, great learning opportunity for that too. So sticking with that. So incomplete patient charts, the intake and assessment obviously needs to be in. Your in-person clinical exam, did you assess the patient's needs and use? Did you confirm the accuracy of the prescription? Okay. Did you formulate a treatment plan? Did you establish goals and outcomes? Now, from me to you, the answer is yes, you did all of these. You're an expert. You're getting your CEUs. You're getting continuation credits. You're trying to better yourself as a healthcare professional. I know this is, you wouldn't be doing this course if you weren't trying to do that. I know you are all doing this, and all of your staff is doing this, okay? It goes back to one of those very first slides, documentation. Is it sufficiently documented that, let me see, did you confirm the accuracy of the prescription? Is it documented in the patient's healthcare chart? Okay. We just want to make sure that everything's in there. The documentation is in there. The more documentation you have, the less chance of things going haywire for you and things going wrong and not getting paid or coming in and getting the rack audits. Okay. So the better the documentation. Can you do too much documentation? I haven't met someone who has yet, right? So you want to cover yourself, and it's from me to you. You just want to cover yourself. You want to get that information in there, okay? So sticking along the same lines, incomplete patient start. How about delivery and setup? There was an article, maybe it's been 2.5 years ago, because COVID, I just erased everything the last 18 months, right? So COVID, prior to this, there was an article in one of the O&P magazines that said like 27% of rack audits are due to the lack of delivery documentation. Okay, that's something we can nail right now. If we can get rid of 27% of rack audits, that's a blessing. So we're looking. Was the delivery in a timely manner? Now we can ask the question. If you and I were in person together, I would say, all right, what's a timely manner? Get a bunch of different responses. So when I'm live at a meeting, some people say 2 weeks. Some people say 3 days. Personally, I think the timely manner is, what do you communicate with your patients? What is your communication line with your patients? Did you tell your patient you're going to have this device ready in 3 days? And if it's ready in 3 days, well, that's a timely manner. Did you tell the patient it's going to take 2 weeks or 3 weeks because you know there's a backlog of some type of material that you need to create this device, and you know you're not going to get it for 2 weeks? And if you tell that to the patient and it takes 2 or 3 weeks, and that's what you've communicated with the patient, then that's perfectly fine also. You may want to try something in the meantime to help the patient relieve some of the issues, but that would be a timely manner with that. Were the items or services consistent with the prescription? Again, that's documented, okay? And so proof of delivery, this is what I was talking about, proof of delivery itself. So we need to see the beneficiary's name, the delivery address, the date that the patient received that, right? Sufficient detailed description of the item being delivered, quantity of the devices delivered or what you're delivering, and the beneficiary's signature on that, or the designee. Now, I have an opportunity, I speak at meetings all over the country, and I have an opportunity quite often to sit on a panel with CMS representatives. And there was a time where they required every serial item of every device and every component that's ever being worked on together, okay? And then they went back and said, no, we just want a description. And then they went back, they're flipping back and forth. And sometimes you get different answers from different reps from CMS. And it's not they're not bad people. They're telling you what they know. I would make sure that you get enough information in here that if someone has a 5th grade education level, that they read this, they know what's happening. They see the documentation and they understand what this is, okay? Make the assumption that not everyone quite understands the work that you're doing and your expertise. That's just a little hint from me to you on that. Sticking with the patient charts, training instructions given to the patient or caregiver, of course it was. Is that documented? Necessary supplies to attach, maintain, and clean whatever the device is itself. I put this down: how to use, adjust, maintain, clean, inspect, scan, and report problems. Sometimes common sense just doesn't come into play, and I'm sad to say that, but they're your patients. They either know how to come to you or you've gone to them. So you have that relationship. Do they know how to report problems? Do they know how to get in touch with you if there's an issue? What about after hours? If there's something that's really bothering them after hours or something unsafe, are they able to get in touch with you? Do they have that information, and has it been documented that that's been given to them? Okay. Once again, I said I'm going to be talking about documentation an awful lot. So I'm sure you'll get very tired of hearing me say that. But anyway, that's the case. So for follow-up, did you provide consistent items or services? Yes, you did. Did you review or make changes to the treatment plan? Well, everyone's had a patient who has benefited and rapidly gotten better. And everyone's had patients who've gone quite the opposite too. So you make those changes in the treatment plan. You have every right to. This is your field. You're the expert. You have every right to do that. Bless you for doing that. Just make sure you document those changes, okay? Make sure that's in the patient's chart. You review the recommended maintenance. Yes, you did that. You solicit feedback to determine the effectiveness of the device and the work and services you're provided. I was on a survey once, and we were going through the hard copies of the patient care records with the surveyor and myself. And in the survey, there was in the patient record, there was a white sheet of paper. Okay, a white sheet of paper just like this, and in black handwriting, black ink handwriting, there was a paragraph. It said something to the effect of device was helping the patient, stable, Second paragraph said something along the same lines, but it said, felt good, helping mobility, Okay, so I asked the practitioner. I said, I'm going to make the assumption that the first paragraph was from the patient's feedback. And he says, that's exactly right. And the second paragraph was your information and your input on that. He goes, that's exactly right. I said, okay, but that's all that was on the paper itself. And I said, this is insufficient documentation. So think about it just for a few moments. What would make this information sufficient? Well, it could be that prior to the first paragraph, it could say, patient stated, then quote that paragraph. And the practitioner writes it down in the ink. This next paragraph, practitioner states, eval, and the practitioner would sign and date it. The patient doesn't need to sign and date it, but the practitioner, and that would be sufficient documentation. Okay, I will tell you that the auditors are looking for little things like that. They're looking. The RAC auditors are compensated a little different than other auditors. They're compensated, and they'll get a percentage of what you don't get. They'll get a percentage of what they'll take back from you, okay? Anywhere between 9.5% to 12% of what you don't get. So they have a fantastic incentive to find every little T that isn't crossed. They have a great incentive to do that. And if I were a RAC auditor, then I would probably be looking for everything because I'll benefit from that. I'm not, thank goodness. But please don't give them any chance to come into your practice to go ahead and audit you with that, okay? So anyway, that's just another plea for me. Now, take a look at the bottom right-hand corner. That is the cube. Remember, I told you have the resource pack cube. Whenever you see that, here's one of our tools. Now, with ABC, we need to do a patient chart audit template. Patient chart audit at least once a year. You'll find with everything is at least once a year. We've created this template. Use this template. Do a random chart audit, okay, with your patients. Put the information down here. Find out what's missing. Find out what's there, what's missing. Do it again 3 months later. Do it again with the chart again. I guarantee you this list will get shorter and shorter and shorter because your documentation is going to get better and better and better. When you find out what's not in those patient charts that should be in the patient chart, you're going to do better constantly. So everyone learns differently. If you come up and tell me, Jim, you said something incorrect, I will try to remember that. But if you come down and say, Jim, this is what was incorrect, I'll look at it and I'll have it in my hand. I will learn that, okay? So everyone learns differently. This patient chart audit template hopefully will be a big help to you. Just one of the tools. We have missing or incomplete privileging information for credentialed staff. Now, I'm going to kind of go through this very quickly because different states have different things with licensure, with different privileging. Privileging is basically when a credentialed member of your staff is able to go beyond their scope of practice under your supervision as a certified podorthist, okay? If that has occurred, if you have would like more information about that, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Contact me individually, and I'll walk you through the whole thing. I'll spend an hour talking to you about it, I promise. But it can be very beneficial. If you do this, we need a written objective criteria for the employee, the gentleman or lady who is being privileged, okay? We need to see the documentation of the training, the justification for that, the documentation of all of that. ABC does also have in our resource pack instructions on privileging criteria and a privileging guide. We also have a template on how to document that privileging itself there. And then you as the supervisor would review the notes, co-sign the patient's chart, and it must be done within 15 days. But once again, if you would like information on this, please reach out and talk to me. I'm going to give you my contact information at the end of the presentation. So everyone does patient satisfaction surveys. I know if I said who's doing that, everyone on the screen is going to raise their hand and say they do that. I ask often how they're offered. We have a lot of people, a lot of practices and facilities that offer them with a hard copy. They'll give them a hard copy, the patient a hard copy right then and there. They'll give the patient a hard copy with an envelope, with a self-addressed and stamped envelope that they can return it in. We have, there are different organizations that use different services that will send an email out to the patient that I see. I've been into practices where the practice will have an iPad or a tablet attached to the main desk where the patient can take the survey right then and there. Right. I've had practitioners speak to patients and take information back. Okay. Different ways. There are many different ways to offer it. I would suggest make sure you take a look at your patient age-wise. And if it's just geriatric patients, mainly geriatric patients, they may not want to use emails. They may want a hard copy. My father, who passed away 3 years ago, was the president of Structural Steel Corporation. And my dad did not use email. Everyone who worked with him knew that. My dad had an email address, but never opened an email. He didn't do it that way, okay? Me, I'm traveling all over the country all the time, and if you give me a patient satisfaction survey, you give me a hard copy, I'm going to say, do me a favor, just send it to my phone. I'll do it right here and there, okay? So know your audience, okay? Know your patients. We need to make them accessible. So offer them different ways if you would like. I think the more ways you offer them, the better chance you're going to get of getting a response. Make them relevant. I've seen some patient satisfaction surveys that are 45 questions. Did you like the brand of coffee we served in our lobby? Okay, that's real good. That's nice. It's a feel good. But is that ultimately helping you get better health care? Probably not. Probably not. Okay. And why do we do these? And that's the reason we do patient satisfaction surveys. That's why Medicare makes sure you do them, the ABC makes sure you do them, is because we need to hear how we're doing. We need to hear how we can improve. You can't improve by someone saying, hey, you're great and you're just always great. Hey, you're great, but you know what? I had an issue with such and such. Really? Tell me about it. Okay? Then that way we can improve. So make them relevant, make them timely, get them out to the patients. If you want to do one where the patient receives device and another one a couple of weeks later when the patient has had an opportunity to work with the device or the insert or whatever you're doing with the patient, then that's perfectly fine also. And I would take a few moments with your patient and explain the importance of these. If you put them in your own words, but if you take, 15, 20 seconds and say, we want to make sure we have a patient satisfaction survey. If you take 3 or 4 minutes and fill it out for us, we would greatly appreciate that. I want to make sure that anyone in your family or anyone you meet at church who needs the services that we provide, that you feel comfortable sending them to us. We want to make sure that you have confidence in us. And explain that importance. I think if you explain that, then I think people will take a few moments and fill it out. It's just really good information that you're receiving. So with that, ABC has, in that resource pack, how to write and analyze patient satisfaction surveys. We have good information on there, okay? We also have a sample patient satisfaction survey. If you have one that you use in your practice that you love and it's doing great, continue using that. Don't change it. If it works great for you, use it. Don't reinvent it. But if you have some issues with it, feel free to take ours and slap your logo on it. It's yours. Or if you want to take 3 or 4 questions off of it, steal those, put it on yours. It is yours for the taking. It's at your fingertips on our website for you, okay? So patient satisfaction surveys. What do you do when they start coming in, right? What's the first thing you do? Please, I hope everyone's going, read them. Yes, read them. Evaluate the responses, okay? Evaluate the responses. Read them. Make sure you read every single one of those. With ABC, you're going to need to create a report and an action plan. And remember, I said ABC, everything's at least once a year. So a report can be, it depends on how you're tracking the responses you get. If you're saying, what would be a 1 to 5 or a 1 to 10? If you're using numbers, well, that's relatively easy to go ahead and going, we're getting an 8.9 response. Okay, that can be a report. That an action plan can be something to the point of if you're hearing from your patients that your staff is not returning phone calls in a timely manner, sufficiently enough, and so you have created a policy that you're going to make every effort to return your patient's phone call by noon the next day. Well, you can take one paragraph and type that up, and that's an action plan. Okay, nice and simple with that. I put this in to rectify the problems and issues extremely quickly if possible. Everyone has had a patient you're probably never going to satisfy, or you're never going to make them happy. You've done great work with them, but they're not just going to be happy, okay? at least listen to that patient. At least talk. If the patient sends a patient satisfaction survey and they put their name on it, well, they may want a response with that. I would reach out to them and say, Mrs. Smith, we understand this. We will try to do this and this. But if Mrs. Smith wants the world and you can't give her the world, then you're going to go, we will try this and this, but we're just not able to go beyond that. But I want to hear what your needs are. Okay. We're all human beings. We all need to be heard. If I ask for something and you immediately tell me no, well, I'm not sure you understood me and understood the reason why I need something. If you listen to me and say, Jim, I can't do this because da 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 da, I may not like the answer, but I'll feel satisfied that you heard me. Okay, so we're all human beings. So work on that. Work on this. If the patient satisfaction survey is anonymous, that means they want to remain anonymous. So you probably still know who that patient is, but they would like to remain anonymous with that. It's a great learning opportunity. Staff can learn basically how we can improve. And this is a marketing opportunity. If everyone's giving you, if 98% of your patients are saying you're fantastic, who would you share that information with? I would share that information with the physicians, all my referral sources. I do a one-sheeter, and what's wrong with emailing that out or printing out a hard copy? You can do less than $100 to do that and mail it out and say, this is what our patients are saying about us. If you would like your patients to receive the same gold care standard that healthcare we're providing, here we are, send them to us. And what does it take? An hour to do that and print it up and mail it out or email it out? If you get 5 or 6 patients with that, I think that's really worth it. So that's a marketing opportunity for you there. We also did a guide to patient satisfaction trends. That's in the resource pack. Like I said, it's got a ton of information there. Who does fire drills and emergency drills? Every single person is, right? Every single person doing a fire drill and emergency drill. I know you all are. So we need to make sure we have documentation that is done. It needs to be done at least annually with ABC, at least once a year with ABC. Yes. And we also have a template for that, fire emergency drill documentation. We have the date, the address, the start time, the stop time, the scenario. If you have that in your files and when the surveyor shows up, you're good to go. Moving forward, we have to do an annual safety inspection at least once a year with ABC. I sometimes suggest having someone else come in who isn't always there in your practice to look at things. I work in my office and I see things every single day, and I might not see them as a safety issue. Someone else may come in and say, hey, Jim, the carpet's being frayed in between the door and the next room. Well, that's a mobility issue. If someone trips over that, we don't want that. Also, you probably have services that come in and check your fire extinguishers. I would suggest to you walk by them every single day. Those things leak. They really will leak. I don't know how often they come and check for your service, maybe every 3 months, every 6 months, but take a look at those. You walk by every time. You want to make sure that is good and good working condition. And I was speaking once to one of my surveyors, and he said, Jim, I have some photographs for you here. Because this was from a facility he just recently did. Behind the door, there are three or four fire extinguishers and 2 prostheses. I don't know if you beat the fire out or you put it out. The door stop/fire extinguisher is up there, and the fire extinguisher is in the bottom right corner that they were using is completely dead. So please check those for us, okay? We also have all of these in the resource pack, corporate documentation, office reception area, patient info and forms. We have performance management, fire and safety, billing and coding. So all those are in the resource pack. Everyone has a policy procedure manual. We need to update that at least once a year with ABC. It needs to be accessible to all staff. It could be called the employee handbook. It can be electronic version, being a hard copy. Doesn't matter what at all. The surveyor, I guarantee you, will say, I would like to see your policy and procedure manual. Although during the COVID period right now, there's a possibility that ABC may request to have you send that in prior to your survey. That way they'll check it all out and the survey won't have to sit there and go through the whole thing while they're there, okay? It's a living document. This is where you're making all those changes, and this is where we're making the updates, okay? And then once again, I requested an annual review. And if you don't make any changes, at least you need to document that I have reviewed this policy procedure manual, and it's still sufficient for this year as it was last. Sign it and date it. And then you're good to go with it. Just as we did there for billings and claims, the surveyor needs to make sure that you have your billings and claims matches your clinical narrative, right? They need to make sure you have a budget. They need to make sure that if you you submit claims and they're rejected, you have to have a policy and a procedure to correct those claims and resubmit. Otherwise, that's a red flag. I know no one's doing that. but they don't need to know that you're making a ton of money or just barely getting by. That's not, we don't need to know that. They just want to make sure that you have a policy in place for those. And with that, we have a billing and coding error report template, just like the patient chart template. Whoever does billing and coding, try doing this, okay? Try doing this and do it every couple of months, and I promise you the errors are going to go away. They really will help out, okay? Then the exit interview, we have 3 ways of offering the exit interview. You can do it in person with the surveyor at the end of the survey itself. But if you're with the patient, patients come first. Stick with the patients by all means, okay? We can do it by telephone or later on, or you can have one of their employees be there and take notes for it. It's your opportunity to meet with the surveyor. They're going to go over all the non and partially compliant standards, okay, the issues there. They'll give you a positive find. They may say, hey, I saw this employee doing such and such. What a great job. You need to hear good stuff. Like I said, we're going to work with you on that. It's your opportunity to share and receive the information. They're going to go over best business practices, and they may have some suggestions for your practice, saying, hey, I've seen practices do such and such, and they save a lot of man hours and save a lot of dollars that way. And you may say, thank you very much, and never think about it again, because that may not what you want to do for your business itself. But you may want to try it for a few weeks. It may work out for you. Their main job is to make sure you are compliant in the standards that apply to your business itself. This is a corrective action plan. If you receive a request for one, if you look at the boxes, C means you're compliant, N means you're non-compliant, P means you're partially compliant. So corrective action plan, we're going to give you 60 days to say, how did you bring your practice up to compliancy on these 2 standards? Okay, so you're going to show us that on this standard, I'm now doing such and such, and now we're keeping this in our policy procedure manual, and this standard, we're now doing such and such, and we have a checkoff list that we must do this prior to the patient leaving. Something that simple, and we will get that information for you there, okay? Congratulations, you passed again, or for the first time, you put your certificate on the wall for everyone to see. We also will be sending you say broadcast your success. We're going to be sending you a news release. Okay, the news release is going to say, if it's first time, we're going to say you've met the gold standard, da 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 da. If it's for renewal, it's going to be great information in there. The president of ABC Board of Directors has a quote in there. The executive director, Kathy Carter, has a quote in there. But who would you want to send this to, right? Who would you want to share this with? Again, the same people, your referral sources, right? Send it out saying, hey, they may not know what you had to go through to become compliant with ABC's accreditation standards. But this is telling them you really busted yourself to get ready for this accreditation survey. Also, I've had people tell me, probably 7 or 8 people tell me, they've sent it out to their local newspaper, small little newspaper. They've had reporters and photographer come in and do an article on their practice. Great free advertisement, good marketing. So think about that. ABC does a satisfaction survey as well. We're going to email it to you. We ask you to return it to us and let us know how we're doing. How was the application? How was the surveyor? How was after the survey itself? How did that all go? So we really would like the information. We need to improve constantly. The Facilitator is a quarterly newsletter, electronic newsletter. If you're accredited with ABC, you should be receiving this. If you're not, let us know. And check your spam files. If not, let us know. And share this with all staff because it's good information about how to be compliant. We also have a Medicare corner there. When Medicare changes things, we want to make sure that you're aware of those. We want to do a little article on that for you, okay? So you make changes in your staff. You make changes in your address. You make changes in your phone numbers. We need to have that information. We're going to ask that you email that to us and send it to us. You change your protocol for your email. You were using Verizon.net, now you're using Gmail because you're saving dollars at that. That's great. That's perfectly fine. We just need to have that information up in the file. We need to document as much as you do. Your documentation is more important, though. There's no doubt about that, okay? We're all over social media. Follow us if you get a chance. We put information. This is our website, abcop.org. This is our staff, a photograph of our staff. I'm lying to you. That is not our staff. That's just a picture from online, okay? But anyway, this is our website, and I wanted to show you here. This is our accreditation team. These are the people who are going to be helping you when you call in. Tammy Richards is the Director of Facility Accreditation. Christine Michael is the manager. And then Kyle Sins is the expert on our standards and compliance specialists, okay? One of these 3 can help you or me, and if I don't have the right answer, I'm going to these guys, okay? So I think what I'd like to do now is this is how to reach out to them. It's at accreditation@abcop.org, And don't forget, documentation is the key to validation. I'm going to put this next slide up here. This is for questions. But before we do that, here's my contact information. Okay, we'll get back to questions, but here's my contact information. This is my email address, and my phone number. This is my office phone number. I travel a lot, so sending me an email, you're going to get a quicker response. Okay, I'll respond to emails at midnight. Don't worry about that. But if you do have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'm going to stop sharing the presentation, I think, and I'm going to come back, and this is the time we're going to go ahead and start taking questions. So let's see.
Awesome. Great job, Jim.
Thank you. Let me make sure I can get to the right thing here. There we go. I'm back. Okay, great.
Tremendously informative. Great information. It's funny how it's not only relevant to Podorthics or O&P facilities, but it's relevant to all types of businesses.
Rich, you're exactly right, and I like to look at these standards as basically best business practices.
Yep.
That's basically what it is. And the reason we do this is so we're able to provide better healthcare. That's it. The more ACT we have together in our businesses, the better healthcare we're going to be providing to patients. And that's why we're here. No one is in this profession because you're going to be a trillion millionaire, right? Yeah. We're in this profession because all of us in our heart, we love helping people.
That's right.
And by following the standards, it's going to be, and sometimes they're a pain in the rear end. It really is going, oh man, I got to do this. But overall, eventually, it is going to help you provide better patient health care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we do have a question.
Great.
Dave, what documentation do you need for delivery signature if you mail a brace to a patient?
Right. So if you mail a brace to the patient, you're going to have the receipt that you mailed that brace to the patient. Okay. That documentation is sufficient with that. If you're using UPS or FedEx, that documentation, keep that, and I would keep that in the file. Great question.
Awesome. Yeah, that is a good question.
Excellent question.
All right. Do we have, you covered everything, from soup to nuts.
Well, if there are no further questions, that's no problem at all. That's not a problem whatsoever, because how many times, Rich, do I sit in a session and a half an hour later I think, oh, hey, wait, I should have asked that. If you have questions later on, please reach out to me.
Yeah,
don't worry about
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
And we also have the, the round table at the end. So if somebody
later on today,
they can always ask the question later. I particularly, aside from a lot of takeaways in terms of documentation and all that, I particularly like the piece on surveys. We've been doing these events now for a year, and we do a survey at the end of the event. Each speaker, rate each speaker, and then we get to tally up that information and figure out where we could have improved or what we could have done better or where we're excelling. And then we share that from a marketing standpoint. It's a great tool. And clinicians should be doing the same thing across the board. So I really appreciated that part of it.
Certainly. And, Rich, everyone does them. You can go into a fast food restaurant and they're sitting on the table. They want to know, how are we doing? Everyone, and you buy something and something falls out, and tell us what this product, how's the product working? I fly mainly United, and there oftentimes I will land, and as I land, my phone will ding, and there's the survey from United. Every hotel I stays in sends it to me. They want to know how they can do better.
That's right.
And be honest about it, and ask your patients, be truly honest about this. We want to know how we can improve, and don't take it as something negative. I will tell you that Medicare, if you have Medicare patients, and it's not in black and white, Medicare would like to see at least 33% of your patients respond with the patient satisfaction surveys. I think 33% is a very high number. I think it really is. But if you go back through and think about the things that I said, make them relevant, make the questions very relevant, make the question, do it in a timely manner, right? And make it personalized. Ask that patient, would you please do this for me? Then I think you're going to get those responses. I think, and the different ways of offering the patient satisfaction surveys. I know places that will send a hard copy, or they'll send an email, or they'll give them an opportunity to fill it out in the office. Whatever, 3 or 4 different ways of doing it. One way, they're probably going to do it.
Absolutely. Ina, she can't hear me talking, so I don't know. Sometimes you have to leave the room and come back in. I think right after this, I'm doing a little trivia sort of. You have a break, people can get a lunch. We'll do a trivia, and we do like a little Jeopardy thing. That's in about 5 minutes. But I think I don't. Again, you covered everything so succinctly, so I don't really think there's a lot more questions. It doesn't appear.
No problem.
So we can stop this. I just want to, before we end too, I want to give a special shout out to 3 sponsors that we have for this event: John Boo and Company, Barefoot Science, and Accenture products, and there'll be 3 20-minute presentations throughout the afternoon from each of those organizations as well. We'll also, and I'll announce this in the next session, we also created a mini exhibit hall, which is a 3D exhibit hall. This is for the attendees to come check out and see what some of the other products that are available in the market. And we have several booths in there. Something new. This will be the first showing of it, so I'm pretty excited for that. Also,
if I may say, I got a preview of it. It looks great.
Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. Also want to share that the education now for this event, 5.5 CEUs is free. However, future PFA events will be free for members. So if you're not a member of the PFA, if for whatever reason you haven't signed up, probably the best $300 you're going to spend because we're doing online education. We're doing about 3 or 4 of these courses a year, and you'll be able to maintain your 20. I think it's 25 credits you need, Jim. Is it every year? Or every 2 years?
No. I think it all depends. I have to look that up, but for ABC, it's every 5 years, and I'm not sure if it's 20. Okay. I'm not going to say it's 25. I think it's a little higher, but every 5 years. So
55 every 5. Thanks.
5 years, yeah.
55 every 5. So or 50 every 5. So we are, we're doing at least. This is 5.5. We did the other one was 5. That's 10. We're doing November. The November symposium. I want to mention this, and I'll mention it again, and probably again. The November symposium is going to be virtual. It will not be at Saddlebrook. It will not be in person. So anyone who had made any arrangements or anything like that or had any questions about it, the PFA, not I, PFA has made that decision, the board, to go virtual. I think it was the right decision at this particular time, especially with what's going on. But in any event, just need you guys to know, yes, don't book that transatlantic flight, Colin. Definitely don't do that. But anyway, we're going to shut down this session, move on to trivia and take a break, eat a sandwich, take a break. You can answer some questions, maybe win a gift card or 2 or, something along those lines. But Jim, thanks a lot again, and we'll see everybody in the next session.
My pleasure. I'll see you at the expert roundtable.
My friend.
You got it. Thank you.